It's no use! Give up!
So, of all the characters in Sonic Forces, Silver is definitely a character with a good amount of mystery around him. As it stands in Sonic Forces, his continuity and place in the story makes sense, but doesn't really have much explanation behind it, which does happen to be the case for most characters. But I feel like the lack of character context in this game after them being gone for so long is due to the unfortunate consequence of Sega's inconsistency and lack of direction in the mainline series of Sonic games. So for the modern Sonic franchise, the best place to find any real consistency other than the storylines that went from Sonic Adventure 1 to Sonic 06, which was kind of like a straight line. Well, it wasn't much of a straight line, but you could tell that the characters developed from one game to the next. Were the games on handheld console, right? So for with your Sonic Advances to the Sonic Rushes, you could see the consistency and the improvements in the overall games by the time they reached their conclusions. Sonic Advance had 3 games that as a whole got better each game. Look at the Some Call Me Johnny review of the Sonic Advances. And then Sonic Rush only had 2 games, but Sonic Colors for the Nintendo DS also felt like an amazing spiritual successor to the point that to the Rush games, to the point that you could confuse the two if Colors didn't have the Wisp in it. So following Colors, Sonic Generations for 3DS came out and put both Rush and Colors in a nice package, making it a nice conclusion to what Sonic Rush had to offer. And so that's probably the most consistent Sonic has been, or at least for modern Sonic has been, since the classic games. And I can't help but feel like the lack of consistency and direction for the bigger games in the Sonic series is kind of what leads to Sega having rushed and unpolished titles for Sonic, which every game, kind of feeling experimental and far out there. Instead of games feeling like a streamline, they end up all over the place. And because of that, the side characters got little time in the spotlight, which kind of gets me back to Silver. The game that really started to swing in this season for Sonic was the very first game Silver played a role in, Sonic the Hedgehog for PS3 and Xbox 360, nicknamed the infamous Sonic 06. And if you know anything about Sonic 06, you know it was the great tragedy for the Sonic series. And since the game itself was just a complete mess in just about every way possible, we're going to talk about it first. Sonic 06 set the trends for Silver's character clearly. It establishes his character and motive well, giving us a proper sense of his personality, goals, and background that you'll see carry over into the other games that Silver plays a role in. Silver is from a broken future where some monster demon thing named Iblis keeps the world in an eternal flame of some sort, establishing his future as some sort of dystopia. So when a weird dark stranger tells him that it's Sonic's fault, his future is twisted, he uses the power of the Chaos Emeralds mixed with his own to go back in time. Now, I don't know if that's a fact. I honestly don't know how Silver's power works, like with the whole time travel thing. Like in Sonic 06, they had the whole machine with Eggman, so I don't know if that's how he did it, or if he used his own power like he did later on in the game, just use the Chaos Emeralds just to go back in time. Anyway. So, Blaze tags along and the Almost couple attempt to stop Iblis from ever appearing and fix their timeline. However, any and all progress Silver makes is pointless because at the end of Sonic 06, his future is still in all types of discombobulation, and Blaze ends up having to sacrifice herself to save Silver's future. But none of that matters because some stupid flame gets blown and the game just deletes itself from history. A good old case of wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey. And since the flame was blown and the entire game of 06 never actually happened, none of the characters ever actually met, making this entire game a waste of time. So let's stop wasting ours and carry on. But before we move on, I just need to say, I don't hate Sonic 06, but it's dumb in so many different ways that it's hard not to ignore it. But I did enjoy playing it than I did some other Sonic games, so I kind of just give it a little bit of leeway every now and then. So after the catastrophe that was Sonic 06 was over and done with, Silver held no place in the Sonic canon. His story had no start or finish, no origin, or big conclusion, because it was like he never actually happened. Now, Silver was bound to be forgotten among the stars, lost in some sort of fray, with nowhere to call home, or so it seemed, until Sonic Rivals came out literally 2 days after the game that shall not be named. If you thought Sonic 06's story was weird, creepy in some ways, dumb, and overall poorly done, kind of like this video, you're not wrong. But Rival's story was pretty dumb too. If there was a dumb meter out of 10, Sonic 06 would have like a 30. And Rivals would have somewhere like a 7 or a 7.5. Let's find out why, shall we? So, my nigga Eggman travels back in time from Silver's future just to take pictures. He goes through all the effort of creating a time machine to take pictures of the past. As if Google didn't exist. So Mr. Time Policeman Silver says, no, that's very wrong, bad Eggman. And our listener of tomorrow trails the doctor, not that doctor, and ends up meeting the entire Sonic cast on his quest to stop pictures from being taken. At this point, we get a sense of familiarity with Silver, since he's still on a quest for something directly related to his future, but he no longer has the same dynamic as Sonic 06. Silver's character is built on his fear, which is probably what makes him rub off as a little callow sometimes, or in other words, young. But in Silver's case, the fear is specifically of his future, and if we, the audience, can't see exactly what it is that makes Silver so paranoid, his character comes off as dry. So the other part to Silver's character is based on his determination to fix exactly what it is he's scared of. But unfortunately, this has little to no dynamic to it without Silver's fear being fully explored. As if it wasn't bad enough, this game has little dynamic to carry Silver on. The game just flat out ends with old fart Eggman killing himself by taking a selfie. I'm being serious, that's how it happened. And at that moment, Silver proceeds to grab the infamous camera that took all the pictures, goes back to the future like he accomplished something rather than the equivalent of like deleting Eggman's Instagram account. So in Sonic Rivals, where there's little bits of build up all over the place with the climax coming off as a little dull, Silver's character doesn't really pay off too much here, but making his role in Sonic Rivals kind of feel like a chore. But wait, there's a little more to this. A whole year after Sonic Rivals had some air to breathe, Sonic Rivals 2 came out. Sonic Rivals 2 had a similar situation to the first Rivals game. This game goes a little deeper in developing what it is that builds Silver as a character, giving him better reason to be involved. In Rivals 2, Grandpa Eggman travels back to Sonic's time again to do something a little more sinister. Black Eggman wants to use the power of the child to release a beast named the Ifrit, who apparently is the cause of Silver's broken future. This definitely gives Silver more purpose in this game to compared to the first Rivals, and mixed with how much more interactions with other characters there are, Silver's place in this game is solid. I won't go too deep into this game, but unfortunately despite the upgrade we still don't see too much of what Silver's future is like, unlike the way we experienced Silver's future in Sonic 06. In the case of cutscenes, this game ends up being a case of tell and not show, leaving Silver to look like the Hedgehog who cried wolf about his future. He says it's messed up, and we see his determination to fix his future, but it constantly falls on deaf ears throughout the game because no one else in the cast has seen what he has, so they have no reason to care. To be fair though, if the future Silver was warning us about Sonic's lineup of titles between Rivals 2 and Forces, it was definitely a legitimate warning. So, with Silver having no major role in any Sonic game for about a decade, it was definitely refreshing to see not only Silver, but many other seemingly forgotten secondary characters in the series giving a chance in Sonic Forces. From Knuckles leading to Resistance to Team Dark and Team Chaotix being used again, Forces really could be the game that reestablishes these characters in their place in games for the future of Sonic, as Forces also ends on enough of a cliffhanger to the degree that a sequel could be made. But back to Silver. In Sonic Forces, we see Silver in a similar situation as the previous games he's been in, only this time it's a little different because when he goes back to the past to warn Knuckles of the future, it's not Silver's future being mentioned, it's just the future. Silver probably saw a potential future or something of the sort with his powers and went back to warn everybody and help. A calamity, he called it. Regardless of the fact it's not his future, Silver being here still makes sense. The two essential characteristics of Silver still fit in Forces perfectly. He's scared that something's going to happen, and he's determined to help get everything back in order. Unlike the previous game Silver played a role in, Silver has no idea what the consequence of not stopping Eggman will cause. We know it's catastrophic, or else, he wouldn't be here to stop it, which is what I feel makes Silver look a little braver in this game compared to previous titles. Sonic Forces, for the most part, is a war between Eggman's army of phantom robots and the Resistance. So seeing Silver want to take charge in such a turbulent times personifies his dauntlessness or his courage. In Forces, we see a Silver that's not only unafraid to pursue someone as strong as Infinite by himself, but also stays steadfast and dedicated to the mission he's assigned through tough circumstances. Silver was the first character in the cast willing to accept Sonic's demise and move on, even though Sonic was only imprisoned. The Resistance thought Sonic was gone, and he stayed unwavered in his look at the bigger picture. He knew what needed to happen, and he didn't let himself get sidetracked. Now, I can argue Silver hasn't been afraid of doing courageous acts in previous installments, but in Forces, we face an enemy that has the Phantom Ruby, possibly one of the strongest gems in Sonic's history, and Infinite, because of the Phantom Ruby, is without a doubt one of the strongest villains we've ever seen. Silver definitely could have lost his life fighting him if Sonic didn't interfere in the fight between Silver and Infinite. This passion of not just Silver, but all of Sonic's friends is why we see them as such active characters in the background of Sonic Forces. So all in all, Forces ends with Silver looking like a strong, passionate hedgehog, ready to do what he has to, even if it's lead an army against any doer of evil. Wait a minute, what? Didn't I just spend the last few minutes explaining why I think Silver was so well done in Sonic Forces? Well, I did, but that doesn't mean there's no room for improvement. To better describe how I think Sega could have made Silver and Sonic Forces as a whole better, we'll be taking a quick look at how Future Trunks in Dragon Ball Z was used, in a similar fashion to Silver, but with more lore attached to him. So if you know Dragon Ball Z, you know Future Trunks grew up in a broken future where all the Z fighters died except for Gohan. Goku was killed by an unforeseen heart disease, and because of that, the rest of the Z fighters fell victim to trying to fight off the androids. Whose original mission was to kill Goku, but after Goku died, they just started destroying everything in sight. So, with Gohan being the only survivor, Bulma, which is Trunks' mom, helped him lead a small resistance against the androids. So to relate this back to Silver, imagine how much better his backstory would have been if his future was also affected by Infinite and Eggman, or even if Eggman Nega, who is supposed to be in his time, got a hold of the Phantom Ruby, and Silver and Blaze had to fight him. Immediately would have everly added a new layer of depth to the Forces story. And another thing they could have done, you know, it's like they didn't have to play it out entirely. They could have just had like an opening scene where Silver's fighting Eggman Nega, and then, you know, it's a losing battle, and, you know, Silver eventually just says, you know what, let me just go back to the past and see what I can do about the Phantom Ruby and when it originated. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's something they definitely could have done. But let's go back into Dragon Ball Z, because there's even more to Future Trunks. So eventually the androids overwhelmed Future Gohan, killing Future Trunks' childhood mentor, and only Trunks and Bulma were left. Trunks being the only one that could actually fight the androids, but he was still a kid. Trunks grows up, dedicating himself to getting revenge on the heartless androids, and in time eventually creates a time machine. And now he uses the time machine to go back in time and not only give Goku the heart medicine, but also warn the Z fighters of the androids and give them time to train. He warned them like a year or two in advance. I forgot exactly how long it was. But if that wasn't enough, he comes back again to help them fight off the androids as well, initially trying to stop the androids from existing.
It will be the end of all of us! No!
But that was a failure.
Hey, Trunks! How about a little more warning the next time you do that?
So after Future Trunks helps the Z fighters of the present, he goes back to his own time, stronger than before.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Because he also trains in the past in the hyperbolic time chamber with his father, Vegeta. And he goes back to his own time, stronger than before, and gives the two androids the beating of their life. And that's pretty much the end of the story there. So now imagine if they gave Silver an even greater role in Forces, saving both the present and his own future from a holder of the Phantom Ruby. That would have been a way to make an even stronger and more respectable character out of Silver. Again, you can argue that 06 already tried to make Silver more like Trunks, you know, saving both the past and his present, but in 06 he was focused more on his own time. So it was more of like a selfish thing. But in Forces, they can make it or they could have made it so that, you know, Silver came back to fight and help, you know, with Phantom Ruby, and then go back to his time. Since he knows how to defeat the Phantom Ruby now, you know, he could have did something about it. So, and the Phantom Ruby, a gem that can alter reality and create warps through time and dimension, which classic Sonic was confirmed by Iizuka to be the same one from Generations, they definitely could have made it work. So, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. Tell me what you guys think about Silver and Sonic Forces, or Silver as a whole. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed, and come back next time where I cover Tails and the mistake that Sega made with him in Sonic Forces, followed by Infinite. So I hope you get to see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later. This was Sir Nisho here, the young Robotnik, signing out.